Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online video with me, Sherman. Today guys, we are taking a look at the PTS patch notes 4.3.0 for the Wraithstone DLC. Please remember, these are PTS, so there is likely going to be some changes between now and by release of Wraithstone. So you can't take everything you see as 100%. This is how they're coming. Because this is just going to be on PTS, and I want to be clear on that before I even get into this, because I've already looked through it. Yeah, there's some stuff. All right, so this is for the PTS, like I said, and this is for the new DLC coming out called Wraithstone, and it is the 2 dungeon DLCs. So it is going to have 2 dungeons in it, and it says that there's some new stuff, new base game features, a zone guide that will assist players with finding content to complete in each zone. Additionally, we've added a new battleground map and updated our older PvP item sets, as well as updated the Guild Trader interface to add some new features. So we're getting the new Guild Trader interface, which is awesome. We are getting the new zone guide thing. I will be reviewing both of these and giving my thoughts and inputs on them, along with some of the other stuff that's coming in. But let's go ahead and get into this. Let's go ahead and bypass all this. So we got the 2 new dungeons. We got Frost Vault and Depths of Malatar. So this one is in, despite events in Vollenfell, the Scholar refuses to whatever, Dwarven Relics. So I don't know where this is, but it sounds like it's in Morrowind area? We'll have to see. So these are on the Gold Coast. These are Alien Ruins on the Gold Coast, it says. So this is new. This is being added, like, this is new thing, because usually they add the DLC dungeons to non-DLC areas. These are being added to a chapter in a DLC, it sounds like. So we'll see. When I get in game later, I'll find out. So it says here one is in Eastmarch. Oh, Western Eastmarch. Okay. And the other one is located in the Gold Coast. Yeah. So this is actually going on. Oh, an island off the. Okay. So this is off the coast of there. Okay. So they can still have it available from other areas. Alright. Both dungeons include normal version and a challenging veteran version. We knew that. New player skin is one of the new unique rewards. A new non-combat pet. Several titles. Unique housing items. Yeah. But let's get into this. This is the new item sets coming with this DLC. So these only drop in the dungeons. And I'm not gonna lie, guys. Mind blown. Completely mind blown. First one. Icy Conjurer. This is the light armor set in Frost Vault. First 2-piece adds 196 max magicka. 3-piece adds spell damage. 4-piece adds spell penetration. Are you kidding me? Like, forget crit. We're gonna give you spell penetration. Alright? Applying a minor debuff to an enemy summons a non-reflectable Ice Wraith that will charge into your enemy, dealing 18,920 frost damage over 4 seconds. This effect can occur once every 12 seconds. This is going to make it but this over 4 seconds? Holy mother of God. You've got to be kidding me. On an Ice Warden? Why would you make an ice DPS set if... Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Next one. Zovigan's Warband. Or Warband. This is the medium armor set. So we get weapon crit on the 2-piece. 3-piece is weapon crit. So very similar to Hunding's. Or, Night Mother's Gaze. Even Reliquin, but the 4-piece is physical penetration. Instead of like weapon damage or stamina, they're putting weapon pen. This is odd. This combination here is just really odd. to see on a physical DPS. So it's good, don't get me wrong, it's really good. But this is the thing that blows my mind. When you deal critical damage with a light or heavy attack, you gain a stack of precision, increasing your weapon critical by 129 for 10 seconds, up to 10 stacks. So you can get basically almost what you can for advancing Yodakai with this. And at max stacks, you also gain minor force, increasing your critical damage done by 10%. So you just have to get 10 stacks, and then you get minor force with it? What? Like, that is OP. No offense to the devs, that's a little OP. It's good. I like it. I'm gonna definitely have to try and get this, because I think that's a little OP, but that's just crazy. Critical, pin, and major force, or minor force, on a set. Alright, next set, Mighty Glacier, heavy set. Max Stam, Max Magicka, Stam Recovery, Magic Recovery. When you cast a snare or immobilize ability, or hit a target with a snare or immobilize ability, you and up to 11 group members gain Major Resolve and Major Ward for 15 seconds, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 5,280. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. Are you kidding me? Like, seriously, are you kidding me? Is this a joke? That is an OP tank set. No offense. Up to 11 other group members besides yourself get Major Ward, Major Resolve. That means no casting of that ability. You just use this set, immobilize an enemy, boom, you're done. You get it for 15 seconds. And you can reapply it every 10. Guess what applies to Snare? Heroic Slash. That is super OP. Alright, let's go on. Stonekeeper, the monster set. Max Stam, Magicka, and Health tri-statted on the one piece. That means it gets all three benefits on the one piece. The two piece. When you block an attack, you gain an energy charge stack. Up to 1 stack per second. When you gain 6 charges, you release energy, restoring 5,350 stamina and magicka, and healing for 5,350. After releasing the charges, you cannot regain new charges for 14 seconds. I'm not even going to say anything, because everyone knows who's going to be using this, and what's going to be using this. So, this is what I see for tanks. Eben, Alkosh, this. Another tank, Mighty Glacier, I don't know what other set, and maybe the other new tank set, and that Stonekeeper again. Because the Stonekeeper's just too powerful. Just imagine think about this, swap tanking. If you guys don't know what that is, that means like a tank holds an enemy for so long, swaps out with the other tank, holds it for so long. If you were doing this, you would just be giving out resources like crazy. Every 14 seconds. You could time it to where you could give out this 5,350 every 7 seconds. You don't even need synergies. Like, this is better than what you can get from synergies. This is a ridiculous set. Alright, moving on. Depths of Malatar, the Aurorian's Thunder. I think I said that right. Aurorian's Thunder. So, 2-piece, max health, 3-piece, spell damage, 4-piece, spell pin. Again, what's with the spell pin? 5-piece. When you damage a nearby enemy with a single target ability, you summon a cone of lightning from your chest for 3 seconds, dealing 1285 shock damage every 0.5 seconds to enemies in the cone. This effect can occur once every 6 seconds. So, it fires off for 3 seconds, but it does damage every 0.5 seconds. So, that comes out to about 9k damage, or more. No, but a little over 9, almost 10k damage. And if you build this up on a Sork, That's going to be one of the most powerful sets a Sort can wear. That's just wow. Alright. Scavenging Demise, medium armor, weapon damage, weapon crit, weapon crit. Okay, we're back to the Hunding's Rage type Night Mother's Gaze thing again. Instead of getting penetration, though, you're getting weapon damage. But let's take a look at this little 5-piece. When you deal critical poison damage to an enemy, summon a Scavenging Maw, who after 2 seconds attacks the enemy, dealing 7,000 poison damage and inflicting them with minor vulnerability for 15 seconds, increasing their damage taken by 8%. This effect can occur once every 10 seconds. So, let me get this straight. I put this on a DK, and I get minor vulnerability for 15 seconds, and it can be applied every 10. And the thing does more poison damage? I'm not even... I can't even comprehend, you guys, like, how much damage this really is. This is like Reliquin. The poor man's Reliquin, okay? And mixed with Reliquin, like, they're gonna have to nerf a lot of these sets. Sorry. Alright, next set, heavy for Malatar. This is 2-piece stam, 3-piece health, 4-piece stam, so lots of stam and health, but let's read this final one because this is mind-blowing again. Summon a blizzard around you while you're blocking, inflicting 1,000 frost damage every 1 second to enemies within your blizzard. Your blizzard has a 15% chance to inflict chilled on enemies damage. So, you remember how they were talking about the other set? Up here, the Mighty Glacier, when you immobilize or snare resources. So this, in combination with this Watcher set, is super OP. Like, way beyond super OP. Alright, so let's take a look at the Sympathy of Blades. This is another OP set. 2% healing done. Not that great, but on a healer, phenomenal. Especially this. When you heal an ally whose primary resource is under 15%, you grant them Meridia's Favor, restoring 2,325 of that resource every second for 6 seconds. It has an 18-second cooldown. This sucks. Don't get me wrong, but it lasts for 6 seconds out of the 18. So you have 12 seconds where you're not giving resources. But that much resources every second is like, it would be like free casting for 6 seconds on most stam DPS. And if you hit a tank with that, it's ridiculous. Like, every set in here is just so OP, it's not even funny. It's like, what were the devs thinking for this update? Like, let's give everybody the most powerful sets we can and make every other set in the game look like a joke, because these are all going to become the new norm. Like, everyone's going to want to use these sets. Well, Ice Conjurer, not so much. This is more of a Magicka Ice DPS thing, but still, Ice DPS just got a new set that's probably better than any set they can get. And then this set here is just ridiculous. Like, every set in here is just ridiculous. I'm not even going to go on any further with that. So let's move on. New collectibles. So, an Ayleid Royal Crown Hat. Acquire this from entering the depths of Malatar. An Icebound Dwarven Sphere Spider Pet. When you get the Frostvault Conqueror. Meridian Purified Skin when you do the Depths of Malatar Conqueror. Okay. And then Ebon Sapphire Die when you complete Wraithstone Delver achievement, which requires you to beat both Frostvault and whatever on veteran difficulty. So, not too bad. The collectibles seem pretty good. New furnishings, of course. We get the new trophies and busts of the enemies. In Frostvault, you'll rarely obtain the furnishing something, whatever. so bear totems. And alright. So the achievement goods merchant also has a new wares for those brave enough to explore the dungeons of Wraithstone. For 100,000 gold, you can obtain a replica cursed orb of Meridia in the depths of Malatar Vanquisher achievement. And for 15,000, the Dwarven Tunnel Arc. Wow, that's cool. Alright, base game changes, new battleground, Eld Angvar. And so this is a new battleground being added for those people who enjoy battlegrounds. And it's kind of interesting the way they talked about this. This is supposed to be like one that phases, like has different things to it. It's kind of weird. Like it has like multiple sections that open up and close off and stuff. See, it says here, certain parts of the maps are available or closed off depending on the game mode groupings as described above. So depending on which game mode you're in, it's different. So that's kind of cool. New PvP collectibles and outfit style. So the new Elenir Arena Lion Pet can be acquired by combining 4 Arena Gladiators proofs. So you can get a Lion Pet. That's kind of cool. And then a Demon Pit weapon outfit style. The Pit Demon, Stormlord, and the Fire Drake Battleground teams can be obtained the same way you obtain an armor outfit style for these teams by competing battlegrounds. So death matches will get you Demon Pit styles, Flag Games, Stormlord, Fire Drake. That's actually kind of cool. So, alright, so Cyrodiil sat updates. Now this is the one a lot of people have been really wanting to hear about because Cyrodiil sats weren't that great. Now they got some pretty big overhauls. So this one had max health on the 2-piece and the 3-piece was critical. Now the new is the 2-pieces weapon damage, 3-piece critical, 4-piece weapon damage, and then 5-piece increases your damage, increases the damage of your physical, bleed, poison, disease damage due over time by 14%. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of complaints about this set just because of that 14%. Like, people are going to lose their minds over this in PvP. If it hasn't already started. Buffer of the Swift. Not going to go over the old one, we're going to go over the new. So this gets now max magic instead of healing taken, physical resistance instead of max health, spell resistance instead of the reduced player damage, and reduces damage taken from players by 10%. Yeah. That's, yeah, this is like the new Nord set. Put this on a new Nord, you're indestructible. Jesus Christ. Alright, Elysian Order had stam recovery health, or healing taken max health, and then increased immunity to disabling effects and break free by 3 seconds. Now does physical and spell resist max health and increases your health recovery by 1% of your sum total physical and spell resistance. Alright, depending on what the sum total is, if it's 1%, so you get 18% health recovery, is what I'm guessing. Or 24 or 33k, like 33%. That's a lot of health recovery, especially if you're using something like Troll King. Like, this is going to be the new set to go with Troll King. That's just super OP. They don't mention what this other set is, but it does say down here, one instance of Beckoning Steel. This must be the Beckoning Steel set, but it does spell resist, max health, spell resist, and then when you have a 40% chance to intercept a projectile cast on an ally within 5 meters of you, that's completely changed. It's spell resist, max health, physical resist, and generate an aura that causes you and 11 group members within the aura to take 10% less damage from projectiles. You can only be affected by one instance of Beckoning Steel. So you can only have this applied to by one set. So in a dungeon, this might actually be pretty good for some of those dungeons where you get hit by a lot of projectiles. This might be really good for that. Or a trial, I mean. But in PvP, I can see where it also plays into that, especially if you're sieging. So really good changes on that set. Curse Eater used to have max health, max magic recovery, and then reduce the duration of all negative effects applied to you by 20%. Now, Max Magicka, Magic Recovery, and then when you heal yourself or an ally, remove 2 negative effects from them. If the negative effects was removed this way, your target restores 150 Magicka. This effect is going to occur once every 2 seconds. This is the new, this is going to be a new trial set. No offense to the devs, that's going to be a new trial set for healers. They're going to make it requested. Like, that's a given because of so many, the negative effects you can have applied on you in a trial. And the fact that it's whenever you heal yourself or an ally, so any tick heals you do is going to remove negative effects. So this is a really powerful set in PvE and PvP. Sentry, old. Max stamina, weapon damage, weapon critical. Increase the radius of your sneak detect by enemies by 50%. Increases the damage done to sneaking enemies by 20. Adds weapon damage. They nerfed this set, I'll say. They do max stam, weapon damage, weapon crit, and it still gets the 5-piece weapon damage. But when you begin to crouch, gain stealth detection for 10 seconds, this effect can only be activated every 30 seconds. That's like a major nerf to Sentry, and that's pretty much all the sets that they touched. Okay, so moving on, zone guide. The sheer number of things to do in a zone in ESO can be daunting. To help you find and complete more content in each zone, we have implemented a new zone guide feature. You can access the zone guide from your group or activity finder on the PC with the P key from the announcement panel or from the overland zone map. From here you can see up to 4 featured achievements for the zone, along with your completed and uncompleted activities for the following: main story quests, way shrine delves, group delves, points of interest, striking locales, set stations, Mundus stones, public dungeons, world events, world bosses, sky shards, Shalador's library books. So pretty much it's going to basically be a guide to all those things. So that's kind of cool. Your progress towards completing these activities can also be seen on any overland map, as seen by the default M key. So that's kind of cool. I like this. This is a good quality of life improvement, something that we needed. Oops, that was the Guild Trader stuff. So yeah, this is really good quality of life changes that the game needed. I wouldn't say that they were like detrimentally needed, but it was something that does fit into the game really well, and will help new players and even old players or even console players be able to find what they're, kind of have a guide to be like, okay, what have I missed? Then you can look and go, oh, I haven't found all the delves. You can go look around for all the delves, or I haven't found all the set stations, or I haven't found all the Mundus stones, or I haven't found this, or I haven't found that. You can just go kind of search around and find them. That's a really good addition. Next up, Guild Trader UI. So the Guild Trader interface has received a number of changes and added new features to the update. Item name search, so you can directly search for an item based on its name and it's at each Guild Trader. So each Guild Trader you can do this at, but you won't be able to like search all the Guild Traders. This is individual Guild Traders, guys. Name matching, entering part of an item name displays a list of all matching items, so you can still hone on what you're looking for without knowing the complete name. Recent searches, price per unit displayed, and sorting when dealing with items in varying stack sizes. That's pretty cool. Category to filter updates based on feedback and the guild store transaction data. We've made modifications to the categories and filters in an effect to make finding commonly traded things easier. So that's cool. I like that. So there is a new house coming, the Alanir Private Arena. It's a pit fighting promoter, whatever. That sounds kind of cool. And then the Frostvault Chasm. I want to see both of them, so when I get on PTS, I'll be checking those out. RIT reward improvements. So material shipments received from RIT rewards have been revamped. Instead of only receiving material from the lower tier than your crafting passive rank, you will now receive distribution of materials, with the majority of the materials being for your current material tier based on passive rank. So you will receive a small amount of materials for your next tier to allow for a stockpile a bit of advance. Oh, a bit in advance, so when you rank up, you'll have more materials. Okay, that's kind of cool. You will still receive a small amount of materials randomly chosen from a previous tier in order to support making equipment for lower level characters. All right. So this is just quality of life changes to the Ritz. That's really good. New motives. So the Honor Guard motive is currently available to test characters and the templates. It will be added to the game May 15th, so that's pretty cool. It's a good day. Chapters of the motives will rarely be earned by completing Black Rose Prison on normal difficulty and guaranteed to drop when completing Black Rose on Veteran. The style item for Honor Guard Red Diamond Seals will also be available by completing... Okay, so to get the thing that you need to make the set, you need to complete it on normal or veteran. Normal difficulty has less of a chance. Veteran difficulty guarantees a drop of the thing. That's really cool. New achievements. Over 40 new lines of achievements to pursue, including those for dungeons, holidays, prologues, and more. These achievements can reward titles, collectibles, or a die. Again, quality of life changes for the achievements. Champion point increase. The champion point will not be increased for update 21 or subsequent updates until further notice. We are currently investigating the best direction to take this system to have healthier balance overall in the game. We already knew this. Thank you, devs, for being clear with it, and I'm happy. I want to see what they do, but right now I'm happy because it was making things a little OP. Not in the ideal way, or not in a bad way, but it was a bad way. I mean, it's kind of hard to say, because, like, everything was very flat bonus. It wasn't very direct, and I think if they went in and touched a lot of that stuff up, I think they could really kind of pan it out a little better. Maybe give it a little bit more flex. I don't know, but we'll have to see what they do with it and what they decide. So, the Elsewhere Prologue Quest. This week, you can start your journey along the path that leads to the mysterious Elsewhere by accepting the offer of Grand Chancellor Abner Tharn. You agree to help him in his quest to seek a weapon that will bring the feuding alliances to the negotiating table under pain of absolute destruction. However, this task first requires you to discover the weapon's location and reveal the secret of history. So this is the prequel quest. Now this is, I don't know if this is getting added to the base game or if it's only going to be on PTS. Usually they add it to the base game like 2 weeks before PTS ends. But I could be wrong. It could be on live servers now. Don't know, but I do think this is a really cool thing. So there are 2 quests in the series of prologue events. The Demon Weapon starts your journey, which leads into and concludes the Halls of Colossus. So this is the part where you go with Abner Tharn and you put the tablet pieces together, from the trailer. Once these 2 quests are complete, a series of optional daily activities for you to pursue bonus rewards. So get a free Crown Store quest starter item, the Sealed Imperial Summons, and that's going to start the quest. Venture to the first major city of your alliance and look for the messenger, and they tell you where they are. Dragon Flight Illusion Gem Memento, available by completing the new quest, the Halls of Colossus. And then the Gwarsh Stomp emote, obtained by collecting Ruin Box fragments from Northern Elsewhere Defense Force caches. Those are coming with Elsewhere, so we probably won't see that yet. We might see it beforehand. I don't know. It would be kind of interesting if they added these before the launch of Elsewhere, but that's kind of cool. So Jester Festival, if you guys didn't know, it's coming in February. And the Jester Festival is available to test this week. So these are the something boxes containing rewards and beyond from average Jester Festivals, such as Ruin Box, Ruin Fragments, okay. Outfit style pages, the Cadwell's weapons. Oh my god, we got new stuff to collect. Cadwell's weapon pages. Oh, that's cool. That is cool. I'm going to be doing the Jester event. These new, never-before-seen weapon styles can be rarely earned from the stupendous Jester Festival box or purchase from the Impersio for 10 event tickets per outfit style. That is super cool. You can also obtain 2 event tickets from the first Jester Festival quest you complete in a day alongside your stupendous Jester Festival box. There are also pies found in the Jester Festival boxes. These consumables can be thrown at a friend or foe alike. I've had many things thrown at me in the game. While throwing pies, it is fun to, for its own sake, you can also earn obnoxious mute face paint for doing so. Okay, that's kind of cool. You can earn a new festival noisemaker and the Jester joke popper mementos found in the rune box fragments. Okay, during the event, the Springdale Indrik pet will be available to purchase. Okay, so this is the new Springtide Indrik will be coming with the Jester Festival. Now remember, Jester Festival will be starting sometime in February, because this is like the Valentine's Day type event. And yes, during this event is double XP as well, guys. Alright, so new available templates. The PTS character templates have been updated to include the new item sets introduced with Wraithstone. The Wraithstone character templates also includes knowledge of the Honor Guard crafting style, and which will become available on during update 21. So that's in May. So we can guess, because this one says May 15th. That's when the base we'll go take a look. Let's just go take a look. So May 15th is, no, it might be like, because this is when it's coming out. The Elsewhere's coming out. So 2 weeks prior would be the 21st, not the 14th. We'll see. I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot for that one. All right, Clockwork City improvements, Dragon Bones improvements, Horns of the Reach improvements, Imperial City improvements. Yeah. Morrowind, Murkmire. Murkmire got a lot of stuff, a lot of improvements, including, I think, if I remember right, yeah, a lot of quest fixes. There was a few of these that were not really working as like they were supposed to, like not leading in the right direction, that kind of thing. So lots of fixes there. Orsinium minor fixes. Somerset got some fixes. Thieves Guild, Wolf Hunter, and the base game stuff. So I'm not going to go through all the base game stuff. I'm going to go over a few of these. So successfully heavily attacking a target that is blocking will now provide half the resources rather than none. So this is an improvement from what we had before. So we'll get half of that back. That's kind of good. All pets will now inherit your bonuses as derived stats. This means your critical hit chance, critical hit multipliers, champion points, and other percentage damages or healing amplifications will be applied to any pet you summon. Item sets that summon pets will continue to not inherit your critical strike chance. So this is a massive improvement to pets. Like massive. Okay. Enchants on one-handed weapons will now be half the potency of those placed on two-handed weapons. This will apply to the damage and effectiveness of its enchants that will not affect the cooldown. Okay, so this means that enchants that would normally have 4-second cooldowns and deal 4,000 damage on a two-handed weapon deal 2,000 damage, but I don't know why they said two-handed. So one-handed weapons is going to be like, if it does 4,000 damage, it's going to do 2,000 sub 4,000 second cooldown. And they say here, this change was made to better align the current functionality of differences in one-handed and two-handed weapons. Traits and item sets slot progression are worth twice as much on two-handed weapons than they are on one-handed weapons. And the previous interactions broke the paradigm, whatever, in the case of enchantment performance. So I get what they're saying, because like this is going to hurt tanks with Crusher. Unless you're using a two-handed weapon to apply Crusher, like it's not going to be worth it to use it on a one-handed, because that's going to get half the value from my understanding. This could be really bad, but it can also be a really good improvement, because we have those new sets now that have a lot of pin on them, so those could take the place of this loss of penetration, which is kind of good. It's not great, but we'll have to see. Buffs and debuffs fixed an issue where the major minor evasion were affecting skills that should not have been. The following abilities and sets will no longer have be reduced by major and minor evasion damage reduction. So you guys can see. Abilities that provide major buffs and are not associated with healing or damage will now apply to a maximum of 12 targets. This is crazy. So Frostcloak and its morphs applies to 12 instead of 6 characters. So you don't even need a tank. Like, your tank doesn't even need to use their buff that gives them resistances. You just need one warden in your group doing this, and it's going to apply the resistance buff to everyone. Molten weapons and its morphs now apply to 12 instead of 2 or 6. Rapid maneuvers applies to 12 and not 2. Warhorn applies to 12 and instead of 24. So Warhorn had a minor, like a massive nerf to it. The rest of them had major buffs. That's crazy. So fixed an issue where gaining a source of empower would override the previous source, blah blah blah. C, they fixed spiked armor, an issue where the damage return from of this ability and its morphs applied before an attacker had completed their attack, which could prevent bonuses such as stealth to apply. The damage return will now fire after the incoming attack has completed rather than when it begins. So this is just quality of life. A lot of these are quality of life through here, like updated the death recap, Shadowcloak fixed an issue, updated Boundless Store Implosion. Now this got a completely remake. So rename this passive to Amplitude. This passive is now a reverse execute mechanic and increases your damage against targets by 1% for every 10% health they currently have. So instead of being an execute at the end of their health, it's an execute at the beginning. So this is good for Sorks, because it's going to make their abilities hit harder in the beginning, and as they get further into the damage, they're going to do less damage. So this is kind of good. Alright, Overload. So your weapons no longer show the energy overload fixed it, you know. So a lot of fixes, like I said. Solar Barrage, this one got a change. So they increased the damage dealt by this morph by approximately 10%, and now the ability grants infinite empower bonus during the entire duration instead of firing a single empower bonus after each tick. So as soon as you cast this on an enemy and it hits them or whatever, you get empower for the duration of it. So all your abilities get empowered. Ridiculous. Animal companion stuff, just some fixes. Heavy weapons. So here's one that's changed. Heavy weapons reduce the bleed applied from axe version of this passive by approximately 12%. So that's quite That's quite a big hit. I think that takes it down to 4% bleed now, damage. And then they increase the damage done with sword version of this passive to 6% up from 5%. So that's a big change, honestly. That's a really big change on both of those. Momentum, they fixed the thing. Twin Blade and Blunt, they reduced the bleed applied from axes by 12% again. Increased swords to 3% per sword, so it takes it up to 6%. Let's see what they say here. The axe version of both Twin Blade, Blunt, and Heavy Weapon were previously over budgeted and provided far more total damage to your target than the other weapon types. Additionally, the bleeds applied from these weapons were performing well against all armor types rather than focusing on being better against only targets with high physical resistance. We are still closely monitoring the bleed from these passives and interesting ways to better distinguish whatever. Sword version of both of these passives were under budgeted since their bonuses were additive. We've increased it to 6% in the meantime to fix some duration issues with the dual wield, and will continue to investigate ways to ensure sword remains viable choice of a weapon type. So basically they nerfed axes because they were too powerful. I get it. Destruction Staff. This is one everyone's going to be happy about. Ancient Knowledge. Remove the requirement of having a Destruction Staff ability slotted to gain the effect of the passive. Now you simply need to equip the destruction staff of the type of the buff you want to gain the bonus it provides. And they do explain this here. This passive was far too restrictive while using ability X type with the ability weapon of X slotted, blah blah blah. Yeah, we get it. So it's basically like, hey, we're sorry, we want to fix this. Shock clinch. They fixed the issue where this effect detonation of the ability shock clinch explosion was not able to critically strike. This ability now properly scales with your critical rating and inherits your critical hit damage modifiers. This is going to make shock clinch pretty powerful. I won't say OP, but it will be a lot more powerful. Fixed the issue with the visual effects moves, werewolf, nothing. Undaunted, inner fire. This energy granted you from the ability in its morphs now has a minimum range of 12 meters to activate instead of 18 meters. Rejoice as you no longer need to sprint back and forth from varying ranges like an Olympian to activate the bonus. So this one, while they say here, while we want to have differences in the synergies that melee and ranged builds have access to, we realized that many ranged builds still found themselves getting closer to their targets in order to use powerful abilities such as Wall of Elements and other short-ranged abilities. The new range should now better reward teetering between melee and ranged distances. So this is good. This is a good change, in my opinion. Right. Imbue weapon. The resource returned from failing to consume this ability will now return a portion of the resources rather than all of them. This was done to fix an issue where you could get more resources back than you had originally casted with and used with cost reduction. And then deliberation fixed an issue where it was granting more major protection than it should have been, so they fixed that. Alliance. This is a really interesting one. So I'm not really... That's nothing. This is the one. Rapid maneuvers. This ability in its morphs will no longer provide immunity to snares or immobilizations. This morph will no longer remove current snares or immobilizations and will instead grant affected allies a bonus that reduces their damage taken from behind by 15%. So, retreating removers and this no longer grant immunity. And they explain here why. All the changes to Major Expedition in Update 20, we wanted to make sure that all abilities that provided the buff were given the same pass. Yet rapid maneuvers were left untouched. We wanted to spend more time fleshing out the new identity and this ability, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. Racial changes. This is the one where everyone's going to be like, what? So they didn't change the initial, your first passive of your race, the free passive. They're changing all the others. So starting with the first spell charge, gain 9% max magicka recovery. That is no longer called spell charge. It is called spell recharge, and it restores 575 magicka or stamina based on whichever is higher after activating a class ability. This effect can occur once every 6 seconds. Reduce the damage taken while you are using an ability with a cast or channel time by 5%. This is a good change, but at the same time, it's a nerf. Because a lot of people aren't taking into consideration, like, you still have to build for recovery in order to maintain resources. Because you're losing 9% recovery, so you are losing a chunk of your recovery. And this is going to make up a small difference, but it's only when you activate a class ability. So unless you're activating a class ability every 6 seconds, it's not going to be as like, you're going to have to really watch your rotation with this in order to get this to effectively work for you. Because one mistake in your rotation and you could lose that extra magic or stamina. So it can be good, it can be bad. Gift of Magnus. Gain 10% max magicka. Now it's called Sirbane's Boon. It increases your max magicka by 2,000. A flat 2,000. No more percentage bonuses. It's a flat 2,000. This is good because the lower your magicka, it should be the lower magicka, the more percentage you get. The higher your magicka, the less you're going to get. Because the value process, the way the game balances the math, I guess you could say, because of, like, it's not diminished returns. It's just that you're not going to get as much. The higher your max magic is, you're actually going to get less than the 10% get. So, elemental talent gained 4% fire, frost, shock, and magic damage. Now increases all spell damage by 258. This means all spell abilities are boosted by 258. So anything that requires spell damage, like heals, certain other abilities like damage abilities, heals, some buffs do use magic, the max magicka, and this can play into that. So this is going to make them more powerful, a lot more powerful than they once were. I'm not going to read their spoilers. Argonian, so they, like I said, every first passive doesn't change. It's the second passives and beyond. So resourceful, gain 3% magicka and restore 4,620 health magicka stamina when you drink a potion. Now it increases your max magicka by 1,000. That's a buff, by the way, a massive buff to Argonians. And they restores 3,600 magicka health and stamina when you drink a potion. So they get a nerf of 1,020 resources. And this is good because they already had really incredible sustain anyways, and it's not going to change by a huge margin, to be honest, guys. I mean, it is, you're going to notice a difference, but it's not going to be that big of a notice, I don't think. Argonian resistance, gain 9% max health and 1485 poison and disease resistance. Now you get increased max health by 1,000, so you are getting a nerf here. This is going to be a nerf to their max health, but it's also going to be a benefit because they're one of the only races that gets max health. So you also gain disease resistance by 2,310 and are immune to disease status effects. So this is going to be like good in PvP to some degree when you're fighting like Nightblades, or you're fighting somebody who's putting major defile on you or minor defile, because you're going to be affected by disease status effects. So this is going to make the Argonians really powerful in PvP. But in PvE, you also get afflicted with minor defile and major defile and other things, other disease damage by certain enemies. So they're going to be really good tanks still, and they're going to be really good for healers because they're going to get that extra damage mitigation that other races don't have. So this is going to be really good for them, and it's just going to be really powerful. So quick to mend, gain 5% healing done and received, now just increases healing done by 4%. This is a nerf, but a good nerf. One of the things that made Argonians super powerful, not as healers, but as tanks, was the fact that they gained that 5% healing done and received. This put them above everybody else because they could heal for 5% more than anyone. So it made them really strong tanks for self-healing. So this brings them down on par with other races. They do get that 4% healing done, so their heals are still pretty good, but they're not going to be absurdly good. So this is a good balance to put them in line with other races. They do still get the max health and the max magicka, which puts them above certain races, which is good. It makes them good for magicka, and it makes them good for not only magicka like heals, but also DPS and other things, because they do get that 1,000 health, which means they don't have to put as much into like glyphs or anything. They can get by with that, but they can also do that with magicka or stamina builds. So they get that, and then they get the resource return, which makes it easier for them to manage their rotations when it comes to certain types of rotations. So really, really interesting that they did that. What else? Not happy, not gonna lie, about one of the changes, but we'll get into that. So Ifris, the 21% stam recovery, we do take a big chunk of stam recovery, but we do get a 258 stam recovery, flat increase, and this can be increased by multipliers, so like this is going to be better for us. Even though we're losing a 20%, 21%, now it doesn't matter, like we don't need a set. Anything we put on our character, we already get 258 stam recovery. So this is going to give us good resource management to some degree, but it's going to be a negative too, because it's not going to be as much as the 21% we had before, but this does get applied to the 20% from wearing 5 pieces of medium armor, the 10% you get from from the champion points, or 15% depending on how many points you have in there. So you'll have a big chunk of recovery from those. And then if you're wearing sets that give you more stamina recovery, you're going to be able to sustain really easy. If you're using Dubious Cameron Throne, you're going to be able to sustain really easy. And they did another really good change to them. So let's get into the next big change. So Resist Affliction, they gain 6% max stam and 1485 poison disease resistance. Now the reason they changed this was because Argonians and Wood Elves had the same poison disease resistance before. Now Wood Elves get an increased max stamina of 2,000. This is a buff, guys. This is a massive buff to us. Like, anyone who played Wood Elf before is going to be happy now, because their stamina pool is going to be a lot higher and a lot more effective. On top of that, their poison resist is nerfed by, or is increased. Sorry, not nerfed, but increased. So this makes them really good in PvP for poison damage, but also in PvE against a lot of the poison damage effects that might be applied to you in certain environments, like certain trials, certain dungeons, things like that. They're also immune to poison status effect. So not only do they get the poison resistance, they also get that poison status effect immunity. So they can't be poisoned at all, but they can take poison damage. It's just reduced. Now, the poison resistance, by the way, and disease resistance are applied to your physical resistance. So whatever your physical resistance is, this gets applied to that, so it puts you really high on physical resistance. And in some cases, you will be over the resistance cap because of this. Alright, Stealthy. This is the one that I didn't really like the changes of. They reduced the detection radius by 3%, used to have this, and increased damage done from stealth by 10%. Now, they took away this from both the Khajiit and the Wood Elf because it was too powerful. And it was. And then they reduced detection radius for us has been completely removed. Now we have Hunter's Eye. We get increases your stealth detection, so we can find stealth people. We get an increase by 3 meters, and after you roll dodge, you gain a 20% movement speed for 3 seconds. This is going to make bow builds really powerful, because bow already gives you Major Expedition, which is a 30% increased movement speed, and you can also get like Minor Expedition from something else with this, and you could have like an 80% movement speed, like a 70% movement speed, and then if you include other things that you can get, you can boost that up, and you could just be like super speedy all the time. So I think this needs to be taken down. I really do. I think that needs to be reduced. The detection radius, I actually like this. I think this is kind of cool, because it allows you to see people in stealth a little easier, and this will help in PvE and PvP. I know a lot of people say in PvE there isn't a lot of stealth mechanics, but there isn't. But for those purposes that there is, this is going to make Wood Elves really good at that, is seeing those enemies that do go stealth, so they can still apply damage to them. So that's a good thing. Alright, Bretons got God mode, in my opinion. So they used to get Gift of Magus, gain 10% max magic, and now they get increased max magic by 2,000. That's a nerf and a bonus, like I said, because the way you got to look at this is you get 20% increase to all stats from having 300 CP, and then 6% from Undaunted. So when you incorporate whatever your base max stat is, so let's say all your gear stats, your enchants, your gear sets, your attribute points, all that stuff comes out to a total of, let's say, 24,000. Before, it was 24,000 plus the 10%, plus the 6%, plus the 20%. So you get like that much more magicka. But now it's 2,000 flat, and then you get all the percentage bonuses. So it's actually gonna could give you more or less. I mean, it really it's kind of a weird thing how it works. Like you said, the less resources you have, the more the the less resources you have, the more you're going to gain from the 2,000. The more resources you have, the less you're going to gain. It's kind of, they put it in there so this way we couldn't build to absurd numbers. Right. Next up, spell annulment or attunement. We used to have gain 3,860 spell resistance. Now they gain 2,310 spell resistance and 100 magic recovery. Now remember, anything that's recovery based, guys, gets amplified. So whatever your percentage value is for recovery, let's say you're a Night Elf, or a Nightblade, sorry, not a Night Elf, a Nightblade Breton caster, they get 15% magic recovery into the class. Like you don't have to do anything. You just get the passive, you get 15%. Then you add in your Undaunted and your armor passives and all that for the recovery. That 100 becomes supercharged because you have like now like a 60% magic recovery. And it's not 60%, but it's like, I don't know, 15 plus 10 plus 20. You have like a 45% recovery increase, and that's a big number. It doesn't seem like it is, but it's really big when you take into consideration how much resources you're gonna gain because of it. So this makes them really good at like resource management. They're gonna have insane resource management because of this. But let's go on. Magic of Mastery, gain 3% max magicka and cost reduction, or gain a 3% magicka cost reduction. That's what they used to have. Now they have reduces the magicka cost of your abilities by 7%. Not just a 3%, but a 7% of your abilities. So this isn't light and heavy attacks because those don't cost you anything. This is any magicka you cast, 7% reduced cost. With the 100 recovery. Think about that. These guys, and I agree with what the devs say here. The Breton race is yada yada yada. In addition to this, the Bretons had a large bulk of their efficiency split between sustain and spell resistance. But the way they explain it, yeah, with their ability to weave spells for prolonged periods of time. That's because their self-sustain is so good that they're going to be able to weave spells better than the high elf. They just don't get the extra spell damage. But what helps them is the fact that they can sustain longer in spell casting than the high elf without needing resources. So they can sustain longer. That means it gives them, eventually, if you look at it in the correct manner, they actually have better damage potential in the long run. But up front, the high elf definitely has better because of the 258 spell damage. Alright, Dark Elf. Dark Elf got some changes that a lot of people are really unhappy about. I get it. I understand why. But I also see what the devs are trying to do here. So, first off, Dynamic. Gain 6% magicka stamina. Doesn't happen anymore. Now you get an increased flat value of 1250 magicka stamina. That means 1,250. So this isn't a nerf. It's a buff, because if you were to look at this at 6% of what they would get before, yeah, it's a nerf, but at the same time it's a buff because they get this in both stamina and magicka. So this is a positive thing. Now this allows them to build into being what most people would call a hybrid, but it's not that. A hybrid race allows you to play either side effectively, and that's what this does. It allows you to play both magicka, or play either a magicka or stamina build, and you can be effective in both because you have that greater resource pool. And on top of that, they did change another thing. So let me finish going through this. So the next one, flame resistance, or resist flame, gain 3% magicka and 2,079 flame resistance. Now they get to increase your max health by 600 and your flame resistance by 2,310, and they're immune to burning status effects. This makes them really powerful in PvP, but in PvE as well, because there is a lot of dungeons and a lot of environments where you take fire damage. So this makes them really powerful in that sense. Now, a lot of people are complaining because they're getting 600 health. They're like, oh, this is bad, this is bad. No, that's really good, because that 600 health gives them an advantage that no other race besides tank races gain. Does a high elf gain extra health? No. So that means the high elf has to use an enchant to boost their health, where a dark elf might not have to because of that 600 health. So this might put them within range with just food alone into the resource pools where they need to be effective. And this is both stamina and magicka, because they still gain a decent pool in magicka. And then on top of that, they get the next one, Destruction Ancestry, which used to be gain 7% flame damage and 2% frost and shock damage. Now this is going to be a slight nerf, guys, but you got to remember, they had 2% frost and shock. They didn't have anything for magic damage, anything that was base magic damage. Now they get Ruination. Increase your weapon and spell damage by 258. That 258 applies to frost, shock, fire, doesn't matter, and magic damage. So now they're getting a boost to all damage types, not just fire. On top of that, they get that ability, like I said, to get that extra health pool where the high elf doesn't. The high elf actually has to use an enchant to get that higher health pool. This brings the dark elf and high elf within close range of each other, damage-wise, not sustain-wise, because that's the one thing that the high elf has that the dark elf doesn't, is sustain. So you do have to build for a little bit of sustain with this. So like using like Dubious Cameron Throne or Witch Mother's Potent Brew might be good for them, along with like tri-stats, like 3 tri-stats on their big pieces, like the helm, the chest, and the legs, because they can utilize the values of those because of that 1,250 they get from both stamina and magicka. This makes them have more resources for dodging, blocking, roll dodging if they're magicka casters, and if they're stamina DPS, if they use any magicka buffs or any magicka abilities that might do something like that, they have that resource pool there to pull from, and it's going to be a lot bigger. So they still have a lot of flexibility in them. And I think that's a really good change. I think this is probably the best change besides the Khajiit. Moving on to Imperial. Imperial used to have tough gain, which they'd get 12% max health. Now they get a max 2,000 health. This still puts them at the larger pool of health out of all the races. So all the races in the game, they're the only ones who are going to get 2,000 max health. On top of that, they get Conditioning, gain 10% max stamina. They get 2,000 stamina. So they get 2,000 stamina and max health. This makes them have larger resource pools for health and stamina than most of the races in the game, besides Wood Elf and Red Guard, when it comes to stamina pool. Then, their Red Diamond passive. This has changed from 10% chance on melee attack to get 6% health, to when you deal direct damage, you have a 15% chance to heal yourself for 1750. They also get reduced block cost and bash ability. Now, this is the one where I've heard a lot of negativity about, because a lot of people aren't looking at the full picture here. A lot of people only see from one side. Oh, well, tanks, they don't need that much extra blocking and stuff. Well, think about this. With that 5%, that means you can drop a sturdy piece, like maybe your shield, and go infused on your shield. This will give you more resources that you could build for on your shield. Or maybe you want to go with it on your chest, or one of your body pieces that you want to change to something else to give you more of a resource. Now you can, because you've already got 5%. You don't need that extra from wearing a sturdy piece. So you can drop an extra sturdy piece, or you can drop one of those enchantments that gives you block cost reduction, because this will make up that difference. So you can make up a lot of different ways on that build to gain more in something for something else or another thing. So this makes it really good for them as tanks, but it also makes it really good for them as stamina DPS or magic DPS, even in PvE or PvP, because that block cost reduction and that bash reduction, because I don't know about you guys, no matter what I'm playing, whether it be a tank, a healer, or DPS, I'm blocking and bashing, no matter what environment I am in. So this saves them resources. That means they're not spending as much in blocking and bashing as anyone else because they have that 5% reduced cost. And then on top of that, whenever you deal direct damage, which by the way, a bash is considered direct damage. Now I will test this to make sure that it is I'm accurate on this, but a bash should be direct damage, so you should have that 15% chance to heal from it. So think about that in the long term when it comes to a stamina DPS or a magic DPS or a tank or a healer, and you're playing an Imperial. You have that reduced blocking and bashing. On top of that, you have this chance of healing yourself whenever you do bash, and whenever you deal direct damage. So it's kind of like you get this really good trade-off of a lot of different things, and I think this right here is what's going to make the Imperial. I wouldn't say the best tank, but definitely a much better tank to have, because you're going to be able to drop something to take on something else. So like if you drop one of your block cost reductions, you could take a thing that maybe reduces your magicka cost or reduces your stamina cost instead. Or you drop a sturdy piece and you want to go with an infused piece, or you want to drop a sturdy piece like change your shield to infused, or change your shield to reinforced, or change your shield to something else, so you can get more of something out of it, either a resource or capability. So this is a good thing for them. This gives them more flexibility than a lot of other tanks. All right, Khajiits. My God. Nimble. Gain 20% health recovery, 10% stamina recovery. Now they get robustness. They get increased health recovery by 100 and stam and magic recovery by 75. As I mentioned with the Breton, remember these things will get amplified, guys. Because the more recovery rate you have, the more that number gets amplified. So the bigger the number, the bigger it's going to get because of the percentage increases. So that's a really good thing for Khajiits to get this. But the next one adds to it. So the next one, stealthy, reduced detection radius by 3 meters and increased damage done by stealth. We know this was removed. The reduced detection wasn't. It was just moved to a different thing. And then they get Lunar Blessing. They get increased max health, stamina, and magicka by 750. Now think about this, guys. They're getting 750 extra health, magicka, stamina, regardless. So this is going to make them, I wouldn't say more effective at playing other roles, but it does make them more effective with like the Dark Elf, to where they're more versatile race. That means they can play magicka, stamina, and DPS. You know, like magicka, stamina, DPS, tank, healer, and they're going to be effective. Like, they're going to be good. They're not going to be phenomenal. They're not going to be the best, but they're going to be good. And the next change is what's going to make them really good. Increases weapon critical by 8%. This is what they used to have before, and it was called Carnage. Now they have Feline Ambush. Increase your weapon and spell critical chance by 8% and reduce your detection radius while stealth by 5 meters. So they got an increase in their reduced stealth detection, and they get both weapon and spell critical chance by 8%. This isn't a nerf, guys. The Khajiit got a buff, a big buff. One, they got amplified values, or values that can be amplified through not only their stats but their recovery, and then on top of that they got the 8% on both magicka and stamina. So this makes them really effective magicka, stamina, DPS, but also makes them good healers and good tanks. It makes them all around good race, just like the Dark Elf is all around good race now. Just like Imperial is a good tank and good stam DPS, but they're not the best. You know, it's like Dark Elf. They're not good at all of that. They're good at like a few things, but not everything. So I think that's a really cool change for the Khajiit, and has me super excited for my Khajiit that I play now, my Templar healer, because now they're going to be more effective. All right, Nord. Stalwart gains 6% stamina and 20% health recovery. Now they get an increased max stamina by 1500. They gain the second largest amount of stamina pool besides the Red Guard, the Wood Elf, and So Redguard and Imperial and Dark Elf. So now these guys are 250 above Dark Elf. They're 500 below the other races. They get a good amount of stamina. But it's the next thing that blows my mind. When you take damage, gain 5 ultimate. This effect can occur at once every 10 seconds. This does not only make them good at being tanks, this makes them insanely good at being DPS. Why? Because this means they can drop ultimates faster than any race in the game. Because even in dungeons, even in trials, it doesn't matter. Whenever you take damage, you will gain 5 ultimate every 10 seconds. So if you're fighting a boss in a dungeon or a trial and that boss sets down an AoE, you take some damage, boom, you've got 5 ultimate. That means you're going to get ultimate faster. Your Dawnbreaker is going to go off faster. Any ultimate you use is going to go off faster. That's just crazy. Resist Frost. So they used to gain max health of 9% and 2,079 cold resist. Now they get increased max health by 1,000. Not this, I would say, was more of a balance nerf. Like, because it puts them in a certain range, it doesn't make them Imperial, but it puts them above Dark Elf Khajiit, puts them up with Argonian, puts them above Imperial Breton, any race that doesn't gain a health bonus. They get this extra 1,000. So this puts them above those races. And your cold resist by 2,313 or 310, so they got a small boost there, and immune to chilled status effect. I can name 3 dungeons off the top of my head, plus 1 trial, I think it is, where you get chilled. So you think about that. So that really plays good in the PvE. And also think about it in PvE, how many times do you get hit with chilled status effect? All the time. Now they're not affected by it. So they're going to be really powerful DPS and tanks. Both stamina and magicka, and not super powerful magicka DPS, of course, because, you know, they don't have the max magicka, but they get the 1,000 extra health, which means they can put more into magicka because they don't have to make up that difference. It's already done for them. So that's kind of a benefit. And then on top of that, the fact that they're immune to the status effect and stuff like that. But the next big one. Rugged. Gain 6% damage reduction. Now they get an increased physical and spell resistance of 3,960. Now you got to remember, the max resistance you get from a buff is 5,280. This is like almost equivalent to that. This is ridiculous. This is just insane that Nords get this. This makes them the most sturdiest race in the game. And on top of that, they get 1,000 extra health. So this makes them tanky and have really good survivability, and then they have ultimate sustain. Like, you can't go wrong with them being stamina DPS, magicka DPS, tank, healer. It doesn't matter, because you get the largest amount of resistances out of every race in the game. Nobody stands a chance against you. Like, somebody can come up to you and like smack you a few times, and you'd be like, because you have like 4K resistances over them, which comes out to 6% almost, guys, in the damage reduction from resistances. Now you got to remember, resistances apply to bleeds and everything else. So poison, all that. You're getting basically resistance to all that. And then on top of that, you got to think that 3,960 plus that 3,210 or 2,310. That's like 7K almost, or 6K cold resistance. They have incredible survivability in the cold. So yeah, Nord's got a massive bump. Orc. Alright, Brawny. Gains 6% max health and stamina. Increase your max health and stamina by 500. I still think this needs to be looked at. I think if you took them up to 750, I think that would be a good range. Either that or do 750 health, 1,000 stamina, or do 750 stamina, 500 health. Something like that. Just something to give them a little bit of an edge, but not as much as a Dark Elf. Not as much as a Khajiit. You know, like put them on par with the Khajiit in some way. Unflinching, increasing healing received by 5% and health recovery by 20%. So now they get increased healing received by 4%, so they lose a percentage value there. But when you deal damage with a weapon ability, you restore 380 health and stamina. Now remember, anything that gives you health is a heal. So any healing you receive is going to be boosted by 4%. So that 380 is actually being boosted by 4%. Not much. But then when you take into account other places you can get healing received, wearing 5 pieces of heavy armor, wearing not only 5 pieces of heavy armor, but also certain races, certain classes get health recovery benefits. This is a bonus, because anything that you get that increases your healing received, or health recovery, or anything like that, boom. This plays into that. So that's really good, because that's anytime you use a weapon ability. So on a tank or healer or DPS, or tank or DPS, this is really good. This is going to be good. Now they also get 380 stamina whenever they use a weapon ability. So they're going to get some kind of like a thing similar to the Red Guard, you know, the Adrenaline Rush, or not Adrenaline Rush, whatever it was called, where it gave you so much resources back when you make an attack. They're going to have something similar to that, just like the Dark Elf has, or the High Elf has now. It's not as massive, but the fact that it gives stamina and health back, that's going to be really good for them to be... It makes them a little sturdier, a little bit more... kind of like the Nord. Like the Nord became more sturdier because they have that max health, they have that physical resistance, they have that max stam, and they get that max stam, that max health. It's not as much, but then on top of that, they get that health and stamina return. So it kind of just bulks them out more. You know, it gives them just a little bit more oomph. Not a lot, but enough. Swift Warrior, increased weapon damage by 4%, 12% sprint cost reduction, 10% sprint speed. So these two aren't changing. It's just this melee damage. So now, increase your weapon damage by 258. That right there, yeah, better than, like, stat-wise, better than Khajiit in weapon damage, but not in crit. And then comparable to Dark Elf, but not quite, because they only get 500, not 1,250. So you see the trade-off? Everyone's got to make a trade-off in some way, shape, or form. But this is really cool. They still get the reduced cost in sprint and movement speed. So I do like these changes. I do think this needs to be looked at. Just this right here. I think everything else is good, but that definitely needs a look at. Red Guard. Exhilaration. 9% stam recovery. Now they have martial training. Reduces the cost of your weapon abilities by 8%. Now, please remember what this says. Weapon abilities. This does not specify strictly two-handed dual-wield bow. This says weapon abilities. So this applies to staff, resto staff, and destruction staff. Then on top of that, conditioning. Gain 10% max stamina. Increase max stamina by 2,000. They get one of the larger stamina pools with the weapon ability thing. Like, this is going to be really good for them as stamina DPS, but at the same time, that max stamina pool plays into them really well as a, healer, magic DPS or something, because they get that bigger resource pool to block with, dodge roll with, that kind of thing. But then they get that 8% weapon ability reduction. Like, that right there, when you think about it, it doesn't seem like much. But then you put it on something like a Templar, who get another 4% reduced stamina, magicka, cost reduction, and ultimate reduction. So this right here applies to weapon ultimates as well. So think about this guy using a weapon ultimate on a Templar. That's 8% plus 4%. That's a 12% reduced cost. That's as much almost, or that is as much as a Sork gets. Like, wow. And then imagine that on a Sork. 8% plus the 12%, that's a 20% reduced cost. Alright, Adrenaline Rush. When you deal damage with a melee attack, you restore 792 stamina. This effect can occur once every 5 seconds. That's what it used to be. Now it's when you deal direct damage, you get 950 stamina back. This can occur every 5 seconds. So they are getting more stamina back, but they're also taking a nerf here because they're not getting the flat stamina increase. They're getting this, which is reduced weapon abilities, which is really good. But at the same time, they don't get as much back. So they had to compensate for what this did. I think this is a little too much. I honestly do. I think this needs to be taken down to like 800 and something, maybe even lower than 792. Like maybe more to in line with the high elf, something around 500 and something. Otherwise, these guys have incredible sustainability in melee. Like in melee stamina, they have incredible sustainability. In Magicka, it's still going to be really good because anytime you deal direct damage, not melee attacks, but direct damage, so this applies to even if you're using like a destruction staff or something, and let's say you just dodge rolled and you throw a heavy attack, you're going to get that resource back because you're going to get 950 stamina. So it's kind of like, you got to look at this from all perspectives, not just from a stamina DPS perspective, a tank perspective, a DPS perspective, healer, Magicka, stamina, DPS, all of it. And so they get this really nice kind of thing, and then on top of that, like this is going to make them really good tanks as well because they get that 8% weapon ability cost reduction. So that means anything they use sword and board wise is reduced. So like not just sword and board, but tanking with an ice staff, tanking with the two-handed, tanking with dual wield, like just having that resource management is going to be insane. And anything they play stamina wise is going to be even more insane. Like when it comes to resource management and the fact that they get a bigger resource pool. So I do think all these changes are good, and you can see their benefits when you look at them in a broader picture than just looking at them going, oh, well, they're just going to be the best Magicka DPS, or they're just going to be this, or they're just going to be this. Like, yeah, High Elf will still be the best Magicka DPS, damage-wise, but sustain-wise, they're not going to compete with the Breton. And just because the Breton has good sustain doesn't mean they're going to be able to compete with, like, the Dark Elf. Because the Dark Elf also gets this extra fire and, spell damage. So they still get the one thing the Breton doesn't. Like, the Breton gets amazing sustain, but they don't get increased damage. So the races are more well-balanced against each other, even though there are definitive markers showing that they're more effective. They're more balanced. And even when you look at them between Magicka stamina, like even comparing, say, a High Elf to a Dark Elf in stamina DPS, like, yeah, these guys get the extra weapon damage and they get the extra max stamina and they get the extra max health, which makes them a lot better at stamina DPS. But the one thing they don't have, resource management. Guess what? These guys get the resource management. So it's like there's a trade-off. Yeah, the High Elves are a lot worse at stamina DPS, but they still have something that no other race has. They have this one ability that applies to both stamina and Magicka. So it's like, wow, they're actually versatile. But not as versatile as a Dark Elf. Not as versatile as a Khajiit. But they're more versatile in sustainability than they are. So it's kind of a nice, interesting thing to look at. Alright, so that's enough there. Let's move on to this. Item sets. Not a lot of stuff, guys. So this set now drops in Robust instead of Healthy. And that's Deadly Strike. Really good. I'm really happy for that. And drops in Medium Armor slots due to updates made to the set. Deadwater's Guile. They fixed some stuff. Note that multiple players wearing this set can still generate ultimate when sharing a kill. Engine Guardian fixed an issue. Flanking Strategist. You now gain 400 weapon damage against a target when attacking them from the side or back. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. Plaid Singers. Yeah. Sentinels. This is the one that I thought was really cool. The pet will no longer be targeted and as such cannot be pushed around from enemy attacks anymore. And the pet will now last the full duration and offer the proper amount of healing and stamina over its duration. So this is a massive increase to Sentinels. This is going to make Sentinels a really good set for healers for sustainability on their groups. At least one healer. Soldier of Anguish will no longer drop bows and staves. Okay, let's move on. Some Alliance War stuff, so snares from Siege Scatterscrot and Siege Trebuchet Iceball can now be purged. Minder Guards now have damage shields that soak up damage appropriately. Expanded, blah blah blah. The subzones between keeps and resources in several areas better permit credit assignment to attack and defense. Yep. I'm just kind of skimming these guys, seeing if there's anything else really to talk about. Yeah, nothing else really popping out here, guys. Like, nothing's really saying, hey, look at me. Oh, well, besides this, fixed an issue with some inventory keybinds appeared in the wrong location. So a lot of gamepad fixes for those of you that play on console or PC with a gamepad. Some interesting fixes and stuff. And there will be a link to this in the description below, guys, so where you guys can go read through this yourselves. They did block this. This is a closed discussion. There is no, you cannot comment on this. So if you want to comment on this, you can't. You have to comment in the PTS forums about these changes. That's where you gotta give your feedback. And remember, give your feedback. Like, let them know, you know, hey guys, this is good, this is good, this is good, but this might be too powerful. That kind of stuff. Like, really let them know, guys, what's going on, because there is a lot of these changes that I think are good, really good. One thing that I do think definitely stands out as the new dungeon sets. Definitely shows some serious power there that need to be looked at. Anyone who says otherwise might be smoking some crack. Those are some OP sets, man. Like, all the gear sets, those new gear sets are just so ridiculous. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Other than, I mean, I could go on, but I don't really feel like it. I want to kind of get to testing, so let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Also, remember, check the description. You guys can read through these patch notes yourselves. And other than that, I don't have anything else to say. So, you guys know what's coming next. If you guys like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more stuff by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, thanks for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in game. Bye.